Now, this is my job, I will not quit it. Pulled me out the depths when I thought that I was finished. Yeah, I question if I could go the distance. That's just the work, regardless of who's listening. Listen. See, I was meant to be a warrior, fight something amongst me, leave here victorious.
What's up, everyone? This is Anthony Alvarado, and this is officially Rise and Grind Recovery Radio. That's right, Anthony Alvarado, Recovery Radio. We're doing it here, WTAQ, Midwest Communications. We even got some awesome stations in the house, like 101.1 WIXX, Y100, the awesome country station, and even Jack FM. It's so great to be here in the studio today, recording the first episode. Man, you guys don't even know what's coming. Today, I'm going to be able to share not only how awesome I think this is, but also I'm here to get some stuff off my chest. I'm going through a lot lately, and I'm going to share that with you. I really want you to listen. I really want you to get involved, and that's what this recovery radio station is all about. So first of all, I have to give huge props and much love to one of my best friends, Jesse Heffernan. He originally brought on the show. Helios was doing a fantastic job on the Recovery Podcast, and they had done some great work already. They even had me on the show a couple times, and I think that's kind of how they roped me in. They brought me in the studio, and I think my mind was forever changed there. But there were some great episodes, man, talking about Party.0, Darjun, Recovery Support Services and Cafe right here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Actually, one of our supportive partners. I'm going to talk a little bit more about them in a couple seconds here, but just amazing things are happening in Wisconsin, people. And we thought, man, wouldn't it be great to be able to share some of that with you? We've been going to, and when I say we, like all of our friends, Rise Together, which I'll talk about too, but we've been traveling the state and across the nation. There's some beautiful things happening for the recovery movement, recovery from addiction and mental health. There's been rallies, there's been special events, there's been conferences, there's been concerts, there's been sober parties, there's been all kinds of just cool fundraisers, and people are rallying together and showing messages of hope and uniting and making that united stance to make a difference in the community. Make a difference in the community because we absolutely need it. And I think if we are able to take this recovery podcast with the support of you, all of our community members, all of our community sponsors, the big corporations out there, all of the nonprofit organizations who want to, support some of not only what we're doing, but so we can also support what you're doing. Man, this is a cool way we can work together. I mean, we potentially are going to be reaching millions and millions of people all over the country and maybe even all over the world. But I can't do that without you. So Rise and Grind Recovery Podcast. It's about, yes, stories of recovery. Yes, we're going to be talking about the recovery community and what's happening within that community. But we're also going to be talking about what's happening outside of that community. Because today, what I can say as a national leader, a national advocate that's been nominated by the National Safety Council, even some of the outreach work that me and my team has done through Rise Together has been recognized by the White House Office of the National Drug Control Policy. I even just got invited to Washington, D.C. to sit on a panel with other quote-unquote national experts. And the reason I say quote-unquote because I never thought my name would be alongside those other national experts in recovery. Man, and just to think, like 3 years ago, I thought I would never speak. And here I am on a radio station, on a podcast, potentially speaking to millions of people every single week. Man, that's exactly what we need. One voice, one story, one day at a time, we can change the world that we live in. Whether it's small acts of random kindness, asking for help, finding treatment, finding support, changing your life, changing your family, or supporting one of those individuals that may be in your family that struggles with addiction and mental health. That's where the differences can be made. That's where the differences can start. And that's what this radio podcast is going to encourage. So yes, I'm going to bring some of my friends in, and they're pretty awesome friends. At least I think so. I'll probably have Jesse Heffernan back because he's pretty awesome. I'm going to have Adam Racet in here from Aaron Allies. He's going to be co-hosting with me quite often. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm actually going to bring some really, really amazing national advocates in the studio with me right here in Green Bay. One of them, my best friend and other co-founder of Rise Together, Douglas Darby. He's going to be in the house talking about the criminal justice system He's going to talk about what it's like being in recovery. He also just recently got engaged and his life's completely changing. Just moved from Minneapolis out to Wisconsin again. Can't wait to see him. Also, one of our best friends, Nadine Moskovich. She's an awesome, awesome woman leader. Young, inspirational. She's teaching students all across the country how to be leaders in their communities, how to become advocates. She's going to be in the house talking to. And then I have some of our national partners and supporters from all over the country, from Denver to Boston to Florida to Texas to Las Vegas, which I just got back from. They're going to be on the radio with me too, talking about what the recovery movement is doing here in the United States and why everybody should be paying attention. Yeah, so from there, guys, man, this is exciting time. This is a big day for me. Not only is this a dream come true, but Rise and Grind, Recovery Radio, we have some huge, huge plans, and we're looking forward to the continued support. Again, we want to thank our community partnership with Darjun Recovery Support Services and Cafe right here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Big shout out to Mandy, especially, and all of our friends that have supported us all the way up to this point. Also, if there's anybody else out there listening that wants to support what we're doing here today, feel free to contact me, Anthony Alvarado, at weallrisetogether@gmail.com. Again, that's weallrisetogether@gmail.com, or you can just go right to our website, weallrisetogether.org. Thank you so much. We'll be back in a short moment.
Are you looking to prevent drug use throughout your community? Rise Together is a national movement that is helping to educate and spread awareness on mental health and addiction. After traveling 100,000 miles and speaking to over 120,000 young people in just 3 years, they currently have one of the best school speaking programs in the world. They are now available for school seminars, event speaking, motivational workshops, public panels, and even corporate trainings. Contact them now by visiting www.weallrisetogether.org.
Looking to bring a positive message to your next event? Contact Air and Allies. Air and Allies specializes in bringing entertainment to recovery events, daytime music events, and family-friendly community events. Air and Allies also specializes in bringing artists who bring a positive message to reinforce a better lifestyle to events like Mile of Music. Air and Allies can also help you plan and organize your event to make it successful. To learn more about making your event successful and feature a positive message, email Air and Allies at airanallies@gmail.com or look for the link on this podcast.
Today, our country is facing an addiction epidemic. It has been said that we're losing over 400 people per day, every day here in the United States due to drug overdose and alcohol-related instances. In Wisconsin alone, between 2011 and 2013, we had a nearly 50% increase of heroin-related overdoses in the state. But to me, Anthony, a person that's in long-term recovery, the people that we're losing, the people that are suffering, the people that are hopeless are not just some statistic. It's not just maybe just a number in the paper or on the TV screen, or in conversation. But those are people. Those are friends. Those are family members. Those are individuals that have a life, that have a story. Those people are you. They're from your community. They're your neighbors. They're the people that you work with. They're the individuals that you may call best friends. Maybe a brother, a sister, a mother, a cousin, an uncle. Maybe it's a student or a teacher. You know, and actually, all honesty, we all struggle. Maybe with addiction, maybe with mental illness, maybe you struggled and had some type of trauma in your life. Maybe you just have stress and anxiety. Man, maybe you just had a bad day. And in most cases, what I've seen over the last 3 years after traveling 100,000 miles is that most people don't know how to deal or cope with those challenges in their life. And unfortunately, we live in a system that does not pay good mind to those that struggle with addiction. We live in a system that's broken. In fact, our community is broken. And I can't tell you how important it is to have this conversation today, Because the conversation around addiction, the conversation around mental health, the conversation around our broken community in a social crisis, it needs to change. And the only person that's going to make a difference is you. Yeah, you, the listeners. The people on this podcast are not on this podcast. The people in the Midwest and beyond. I'm calling you as the leader in this community to not only build compassion and empathy, but also build love and connection with those that are struggling today before it's too late. Look, guys, maybe some of you are just chiming in for the very first time. Maybe you've heard some of the awesome podcasts that Helios did prior to me taking over this awesome station. Maybe you heard the passion and the energy in the room. Maybe you even know of what Rise Together is doing. I want to tell the world, I want to share with you what I'm seeing in the streets. I just told you just a little bit ago that I actually traveled 100,000 miles over the last 3 years. We've been working with schools all across Wisconsin. And within that, we've educated 120,000 people on addiction and mental health. And some of those stories I want to bring to this mic. I also want to invite my friends in, not only on a localized level, but also national advocates and leaders that can share what's going on within the recovery movement and how that's impacting every single person in America today and why it makes a difference for you. But I thought the only way that maybe I can capture your attention and tell you how serious this subject is just tell you a little bit of my story. My name is Anthony Alvarado, 32 years old, and a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I've been nearly completely clean and sober for 4 amazing, awesome, fantastic years. Man, I found recovery 8 years ago. And to think like right now I'm in the time where I've been in the longest breath of sobriety is pretty amazing. Man, 8 years ago I wanted to give up in like the worst way. Addiction brought me to my knees. And I was ruined like physically and mentally and emotionally and spiritually. My social surrounding felt lost. 10 years of active use, only to come to the quote-unquote rock bottom and want to give up. And give up on everything. I had a child at the time. My son, like 6 years old. I needed a father more than anything, just like I need my father today. But you know what? Whether it was my story or your story, what I'm finding is that a lot of people have a similar story. That at a young age of 24, 25, early 30s, early 40s, we're getting to that end of the rope, end of the hall, rock bottom, with no hope. Not for a future, not as an individual, not as a mother or as a dad or as maybe somebody that was inspiring towards dreams, goals, and aspirations, but we are losing that hope along the way. And I get it, man. Not everybody that starts off using drugs and alcohol ends up this way. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that me and a whole lot of people, millions and millions of people are in recovery today. And our voices are starting to unite for good reason. Because it is beautiful to say, yes, I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me, what that really means to me is that I'm a person first. And that my addiction does not define me, but instead, it is only a piece of my story. But my recovery is what brings hope back to the community, what brings hope back into my life and back into my family. To inspire others and to be empowered by the idea that you can overcome challenges and live in recovery. And it doesn't mean that things are going to be perfect, but what it does mean is that things can get better. And that you can reach out and ask for help because, you know what? It's okay to. Time and time again, here today, to say things like, I'm a good father because I'm in recovery. I'm in recovery, so that brought back this idea of being more involved in my community, by serving others, I thought maybe I could make a difference. But that would never have been possible if I didn't start with that first step. And that was asking for help. Man, 8 years ago, I never thought I would be here today. Never thought I'd be speaking on some radio station or a podcast, or people would ever be even listening to my voice. But slowly but surely, with small attainable goals every single day, moving forward, pushing myself to grow with the help of others, direction, treatment, therapy, behavioral support, leadership, employee development, college, working on being a dad, working on being a friend, working on being what it means to be a boyfriend or in a relationship. Man, if I would have been learning those things when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, maybe my life wouldn't have almost ended at 24. I don't know. I mean, I look at my dad today, and I wonder if he feels the same way. You know where my dad is? Right now, he's just sitting in the hospital. 51 years old. We had conversations within the last few days that we might be preparing for hospice. That maybe we have to take a look at funeral services. And we're starting to talk about him like he's not even a person. Like he's just some part of the system. And I get it. You have to prepare for maybe the worst. But man, I never wanted the worst to happen this soon. 51, and we just got the last year together for the first time. I watched him struggle for 25 years. 25 years of hell, of hardship. Do you know what it's like? I don't even know what that's like. And there he is. People are making him feel like he's a mistake. Or that he made too many mistakes. And he has to pay for his actions. I think that's how he feels. Filled with like shame and guilt. Hardship. You know, when he was young, I think he went through a lot more than he's ever willing to share with anybody. But to be open and honest and talk about the struggles that you have in your life isn't always easy. And even if my father doesn't live too much longer after today, what I do know is that the last year while I watched him in recovery has been absolutely beautiful. He was able to sit with us and eat dinner with my children, spend time with us. We watched some live music downtown Appleton. We took walks. We talk on the phone. He'd actually say, "I love you." Man, that wasn't always the case. And this is coming from a person that said, you're never going to amount to anything. You're never going to be anything. So why even try? Filled with hatred and spewing out toxicity every moment. Wrapped up in his addiction, in his drinking, in his downfall. They used to say that my dad had it all. Good looking guy. He could talk good. He could make you laugh. He had a beautiful wife, my mom, and 3 beautiful children, me and my 2 brothers. They called them Ken and Barbie sometimes. I don't know. They had good jobs, good house. Looked like they had everything that they could have ever needed. And that's what I thought. And it wasn't until the last few weeks that my dad came to me and said I did have everything I ever needed, ever wanted. And I messed up and I let it all go. Just to drink, just to use. He's like, I have so much pain inside, son. What does it really matter if I try anymore? I'm living in a place that I absolutely hate. That doesn't give me any support, or at least it doesn't feel like it. I see you once or twice a week, and I wish it was more, but I know you have your own life, you have your own children. And who am I to come back into your life after all these years? Your other 2 brothers won't talk to you. And I've tried to make amends with your mom, but she's never going to listen. My mom died last year. My brother lives in a different city. And my sister hardly talks to me. I want to go to treatment, but it doesn't look like I can do that right now. And I go to support groups, but I feel like a stranger. What do I have to live for? The doctor just told me that I'm only going to live for 5 more years. What do I have to live for, Anthony? That's what my father was telling me. How do you look at somebody in their face and just talk statistics and talk treatment and talk therapy when they're bleeding out their heart? Man, you guys, this isn't just about being on my own show. This is about changing my family. This is about changing my life. This is about changing our community. Don't you see? This is just one small example against the millions all across America. And I'm just encouraging you to do the same, step up and start talking about what's happening. Because if we don't, these kind of stories are going to happen more often. Every single day. Time is going to pass. People are going to suffer. They're going to share these similar stories. And what I've seen, what I've known, what I've witnessed over the last couple weeks is that it's very easy to be like, well, he's just in the system. It's broken, sure, but I mean, there's a lot of boundaries, and we need some funding for this, and we need funding for that, and this system works against that system, and maybe they'll just throw him back into jail, or maybe they'll just throw him back into a treatment facility for now that might not even work, even though he needs one-on-one care. Well, I don't know if we're going to have access to that, and at least we're working at it. But are we really? Because I can't think of anything else where somebody is struggling that much. And they have to repeatedly ask and beg and plead. But then they just look at him like he's a waste of space, like he has some moral deficiency, like he's just a bad person. He's not a bad person, he's a sick person. And he needs to be taken care of. Just like I was. Just like the other people I've met. He deserves an opportunity to live too. And so does your family, whoever's out there that is struggling today. I know how impossible it is to navigate a system. I know how impossible it is, even with all the resources at my fingertips, as a professional, as one of the experts in this state and all across the country. I still have troubles trying to get my father in the treatment or whoever else it is that needs it. I can't imagine what it is like for somebody that has no idea what addiction looks like, has no idea what the system of care looks like, and then finds out that it is almost impossible to get help, even when you ask for it. Well, my belief is that through things like this, we can start talking about these things. Because when I go to conferences, I go to speeches, I go to public panels, I go to task force, I go to national groups, I travel all across the country, and I hear this conversation everywhere. I hear it everywhere. But they also say, you know what? Voices like yours, people like you can actually say what's going on. You don't have to answer really to anybody but yourself. You can't have anybody come in and edit your story. My story is my story. I'm going to tell it here on Rise and Grind Recovery Radio. Thank you so much. I'll be back after this short break.
Are you looking to prevent drug use throughout your community? Rise Together is a national movement that is helping to educate and spread awareness on mental health and addiction. After traveling 100,000 miles and speaking to over 120,000 young people in just 3 years, they currently have one of the best school speaking programs in the world. They are now available for school seminars, event speaking, motivational workshops, public panels, and even corporate trainings. Contact them now by visiting www.weallrisetogether.org.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, for being back with me here in the studio at Rise and Grind Recovery Radio. It is an absolute honor to be speaking to you guys today. And I know this is our first episode, and we have a lot up and coming. But I thought, I've mentioned Rise Together a number of times. And I know a lot of people come up to me and they ask me, well, why did you start Rise Together? Or how did it happen? And why are you so passionate about it and still out there today? And how are you seeing so much success in the prevention that you guys do with the schools and with students? And, it seems like an unbelievable movement, and all these questions come up. So I thought, you know what? It's my first episode. I'll give you a little bit of background of who I am and what I've been doing for the last 3 years and how I ended up here in short. It's not going to be too long of a conversation, but I think it's a pretty awesome one. Man, why did it start? Why am I here? Well, first of all, what I can tell you is that for me, yes, I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I did mention that. I shared a little bit of my story with you. I mean, that in part is why I'm here. But I also am here because I feel like it is my duty, or it is my job, to help change the community that I live in here in Appleton, Wisconsin, throughout the Fox Valley and Northeast region, right here in my own state, in my own backyard. Because I have 2 children at home. 2 amazing children at that. 11 and 13 years old. Gavin and Jada. Absolute phenomenal kids. Sometimes they drive me crazy, but I don't know where I would be without them. And I know that they could potentially, because of the addiction that I have struggled with, because of how their grandpa or their grandma or other individuals in our family have struggled with addiction and mental health, I know that my daughter and my son could struggle with substance use disorder, maybe long-term addiction, maybe struggle with a mental illness. And if they were to ask for help today, they probably wouldn't get it. And maybe they would. But in most cases, from what I've seen, it's not happening. Not for youth. Not for young people. Not even for adults or seniors. There isn't enough in our communities here in Wisconsin and every single state across the United States to actually address the addiction epidemic that we're in here today, that we're seeing today. The social crisis. Man, how could you not want to get involved? I literally, over break, opened up my computer and just did some general searches. I'm going to read something to you just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here. CNN News. Here's the top stories that I saw on their page, on the top and on the left-hand side. Boy, 6 years old, shot and killed. 2 children, 1 teacher. Right in South Carolina. Next story. LAPD fatally shoots a black man in a foot chase. Next story. Racist vandalizes historic black school. Next story. Mom overdoses next to her child, who was a toddler, in the middle of a dollar store in Massachusetts. A toddler. Next story. Family massacre rattles rural Ohio community where everyone is hurting. And it was linked to the drug trade. President Obama speaking out on killings in the Philippines. The claimed war on drugs, killing over 2,400 Filipinos in just 10 weeks. That's a massacre in itself. Menasha, overdose, takes place right in our own backyard. The stories go on and on and on. We can no longer ignore how broken our community is. That's what makes it my why. Is because so many people are silent. So many people don't want to talk about, yes, very difficult things. Addiction, mental health, disease, cancer, death, needles, crime, rape, prostitution, the drug trade, our dying communities, our next generation being at risk. Nobody wants to talk about it, and that silence is what is keeping our people sick, suppressed, discriminated, So if you were ever to come up to me and ask me, well, why do you do what you do, is because not enough people are doing what we are trying to accomplish. And I'm hoping that deep down, with all this passion, all these things that I want to accomplish over the next several years, not only just with Rise Together or just Recovery Podcast, but just in the recovery movement and as an independent, that we can change the world, because I believe that I could stand up and talk about the issues that I care most about. That I maybe could talk about recovery in a new way. And that would hope someday help save just one life. Just one, man. Then it'd all be worth it. Man, we started Rise Together 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And when I started, they said, you can't do what you're going to do. You can't go speak to students about drugs and alcohol. Besides, it's already been tried and it epically failed. Why would you ever try that again? That's a joke. They laughed. They kept laughing. And it got to me, man. I got on stage for the first time in Green Bay, Wisconsin, downtown, got invited by Mayor Jim Schmidt with Douglas Darby to speak in front of a small recovery community, a small recovery rally. I got up on stage, I muttered through my story, and I quickly got off, and I never, ever wanted to do it again. Ever. I hated it. It was all about if I did good enough, did I say the right things, did I do that, did I not do that? Man, trying to live in like this perfection. But it immediately changed. Immediately when I got off stage, somebody came up to me, somebody in the recovery community, and this forever changed my life. They just simply said to me, the way you talk, the way you say things, the way you speak about recovery makes me want recovery. Then I got it. It's not about me. And neither it is today. It's about that person. The one that needs to hear that message. The one that needs to maybe find a little hope. Find a little inspiration. Maybe it's for that day, for that minute. Maybe it's for that week. Maybe it's for that month. Maybe it's something that's been dying here for a year. Years. 25 years like my father. And say, wow, if that person can do it, so can I. And for the last 3 years, I've been traveling with my team, and we started this organization called Rise Together, a national organization. We primarily focus on educating our youth on mental health and addiction, but we also bring a story of recovery. We have national advocates, leaders, professionals, educating thousands of students on a weekly basis. In person, at the school, middle school, high schools, colleges. We also do public panels, and we educate parents on the dangers of drugs and alcohol so they can better have the better skills or tools to help their children as they face those challenges in middle school and high school or college. And that we are actually starting to build on compassion and resiliency and competence, and teaching these students how to cope with the challenges that they face, whether it's drugs and alcohol, or if it's just a hard time. Maybe somebody went through some type of trauma. Maybe they had a setback. Maybe they lost a loved one. Bring that hope back in the community. I think that's what Rise Together does so well, in a real and authentic way. We're not going in and telling people what to do, what to say, what not to do. We're not shaming our people. We're not saying this is a punitive, you did bad, here's the consequences type of program. But say, hey, look, America, look, students, that there is an epidemic that we are facing and we need to talk about. And if anything, we need you. You can change the future. The next generation can. That's a story that I bring to mobilize them and encourage them to become an advocate in their community. Me and like 9 other people every single year travel the Midwest and travel the nation. We bring that story to every forefront that we possibly can. And you know what, guys? The students are listening. They're actually paying attention. Because once you're able to have that conversation with them and show how real and authentic that you are, and that you can also encourage them to share their story and ask for help for the very first time, and they can actually start healing together as peers, that's when you can start seeing a cultural difference. And that's what Rise Together cares about so often. and so much all of the time. The educational seminar that we provide is only a component of what we're going to do over the next few years. That's more like an awareness campaign to start eliminating the social stigma around addiction and mental health, to break down barriers. And man, it is working. I've seen 75,000 students stand up and make a stance to start talking about the issues that they care about and rise up, if you will, and say, you know what, drugs are a problem in our community. And 75,000 plus students have stood up and said drugs are a problem in our school, and it doesn't matter if they're in middle school, high school, some of them are even fifth graders. And they also said it needs to change. I also had thousands and thousands of students over the last 3 years, after educating 120,000 people, stand up and say, I've lost somebody, Anthony, to this horrible drug epidemic. And I'm only 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. I'm a young person just trying to figure out my own life. And I can see that other people's lives are falling apart around me. What am I supposed to do? I don't have all the answers, and neither is Rise Together. But I know by continuing the tour over the next year, we're going to find out some of those answers. As we join alliances with other professionals, we're going to figure out ways to prevent this drug epidemic from getting worse. But through measures like this, here, Rise and Grind Recovery Radio, I hope to inspire the world and change our community forever. Thank you so much. My name is Anthony Alvarado.